Good afternoon. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the kind of a shining star of an example of renewable energy transformation that's happening in Germany. It's certainly impressive if you hear at all about it in the news or see pictures of things that are happening. It's quite a model, and I want to just talk about it briefly and then move on into a little bit more of a discussion about what's happening in the United States. And we have quite a different system here for renewable energy financing and a different regulatory environment. And I think largely what's going on in Germany can't be replicated in the United States. But there are some key elements that I think are worth highlighting and that should be an inspiration for us. And so we'll talk about that and then move on into what's going on in the United States and what we can do more at the state and local level to make renewable energy and some other energy efficiency things happen in our communities. So what is Germany's energy transition? It's a large-scale transformation of their energy market. So it is a movement away from conventional fuels and nuclear energy. I also want to say that I'm starting at a point that includes about 25 years of backstory. There's a long, long history of anti-nuclear and other very environmental activism in Germany with the establishment and growth of the Green Party, and that is all the backstory behind this. So this did not happen out of the blue with a couple of politicians getting together and deciding this was going to happen. There's a huge amount of grassroots effort that went on behind this. So Germany's renewable energy program includes 5 main components. It's wind, solar, biomass, hydro, and geothermal. It's mainly small-scale installations, and I want to highlight that point all the way through the presentation, not utility scale. The big boys did not get what they wanted out of this deal in Germany. So it's broad ownership and participation, a lot of homeowners, a lot of farmers, small businesses. You'll see some pictures in here that are showing what a lot of this looks like. And there's enormous public support for this. This was not a fight to make happen. There were fights along the way, but when it finally got to the point of being enacted, there was not a huge fight. There was a large public consensus for it and reasonable costs associated. So the bulk of the costs are borne by consumers, and there is actually a carve-out for large industrial users in terms of the additional fees that are charged. So it may seem like a bit of a cave-in to those folks, but they're also driving the German economy, and people recognize that broadly, and they were willing to make that concession in order to enact the bill. And the actual bill was first passed in 2000, and I think it's been modified 3 times since then. They've made a series of technical improvements in the law, and they were willing to see how markets were shifting and loopholes that were being created, and they've gone back and fixed them. So I think it's another lesson to be learned. They didn't get it right the first time, and they keep focusing on what needs to be done to improve it. So they had many reasons for doing the energy transition. I'd say a big one in Germany is really climate change. I think it's different here. There are a large number of us that get this, but I don't think that can be our first shot. They are intent on reducing their energy imports. The Czech Republic and France and a couple of other countries have been the producers of a lot of German energy, and they continue to be, but the goal is to phase those down and create more local, country-oriented or German-produced energy from within, from renewable sources. The idea is to also stimulate technology innovation and the green economy within Germany. So there's a large new infrastructure of green businesses that are being built through this policy. They're also out to reduce and eliminate nuclear risks. This is just a hot button issue in Germany, completely opposite France, where apparently nuclear can do no wrong, but Germans are very aware of the dangers of radioactive waste and nuclear accidents. So this is a hot button for Germany. They're intent on strengthening the energy security of Germany. They want to build local economies and provide social justice. And what that means is really addressing the long-term energy costs and how that affects lower-income consumers. So the financing for energy transition in Germany is based on feed-in tariffs, and if you guys are not familiar with that term, it just means a price that the grid operators agree to pay to certain renewable energy sources for their energy, and in Germany, under this law, it's under a 20-year term. So it's a quite nice deal. The tariffs were initially very lucrative, and they've also differentiated between the various types of power to encourage certain types of renewable energy, but then not over-subsidize other types that will happen because of market forces on their own. So it's a fairly sophisticated scheme. And because of the long-term financing and the certainty of revenues flowing into the deals, everybody is willing to lend to the deals. So private banks, public banks, everybody's willing to go into these deals. This is completely unlike what we have here. So I wanted to highlight just a couple of public banks, public German banks that are actively participating in renewable energy deals. Sparkasse is sort of a regional cooperative chain of banks, and they are, in some areas of the country, the largest part of the banking system. In what used to be East Germany, they are the largest piece of the pie, and they are everywhere on lots of street corners in Germany. And they focus on consumer and residential lending. The Raiffeisenbank is one of the earliest examples of a German public bank. It was initially targeted to to farmers and then other agricultural-related businesses, but it's expanded beyond that by now. And one of the really great things, and this is a huge cost savings comparing Germany to the United States, is that a property owner can make a decision on a Monday, and they would have a complete system installed on their roof by Friday. I don't think I can say that for DC. It's more like 3 to 6 months, and all that time eats up an enormous amount of money and costs projects additional fees and hourly wages and everything else because people are poring over documents that are really quite routine. So it's something that needs to be fixed in the United States. And this is probably what you think solar in Germany looks like. This is the actual winner of the United States, the Department of Energy's Solar Decathlon in 2009. This is for the price of €1 million, this could be yours. It's a very smart cube house where the entire structure, the exterior is solar panels. So it's these sort of reflective, sort of shiny black tiles that are all actually solar panels, and they produce I can't remember, over 100% of what the house needs. So it generates more energy than the participants can use and puts the extra energy back onto the grid. It might be cheaper now that technology costs have fallen, but this type of thing could exist for the right price. What you actually see in Germany is more like this. And what I like about German solar is that it shows up in the most remarkable places. Like you can be riding on the train through Bavaria and see these picturesque German homes and with the half timbers and beautiful Bavarian architecture, and they'll have solar panels on the roof. This would be like we'd have a war in Washington, D.C. if we tried to do the same thing in a historic district, because it just wouldn't be appropriate historically to try to put solar panels on the roof. But Germans are quite adaptable, and they understand that historic buildings adapt over time, and something as important as energy, providing the energy for the building is worth modifying the building for. This is very typical, a farm building. Often these would be in the countryside as well, occasionally in the countryside. And they'll, on the south-facing roof, they'll put up solar panels. And this is another typical German architectural style, so apartments within like a city. And again, the south-facing roofs have all put on, this is probably all one project, so the one entity could make the decision. In single-family homes, you'll see, like even in little rural villages, you'll see like somebody obviously got the idea first to go solar, and they talk about it to their neighbors, they see how it's working, and a bunch of people, like in a rural village, will go solar. So it's quite impressive how much it's expanded in Germany. You'll also see some larger installations like this. This is just in a field or a pasture, and so rows of solar panels will be set up too. And it's possible that in some of these that the pastures could still be used for grazing, so there's not 100% use of the agricultural purpose of the land, and it's intermixed with solar or wind. So there's some significant accomplishments here. So 16% of Germany's energy is now produced from renewable sources in the first 4 months of 2013. And this is a number that just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. There's been some equally impressive milestones, like there was one day this year where 50% of Germany's entire energy was produced from renewable sources. So if it's available from renewable sources, they don't have to produce it from conventional. They've created 380,000 new jobs so far. The number's climbing. The money that they used to export to buy energy from other countries is now being saved and spent in the local economy. And all partners in the renewable energy game in Germany are being rewarded. So it's the property owners, the energy consumers are getting a good deal, they're getting renewable energy, solar installers have a good business, lenders are making a decent profit, not huge profits, but the big utilities lost out. They didn't win this argument. And 50% of German renewable energy is locally owned. So it could be a farmer, a homeowner, but there are also community facilities that are community owned. So the question comes up, well, isn't Germany just a technological wonder, or they have such unique resources that they're just exceptional and they're an idea? It's a shining example, but unfortunately we can never do it. And I think the answer is no. There are no extraordinary renewable resources of the leading renewable energy countries. There is nothing like the geothermal that both Norway and Iceland have. There's nothing remarkable. In fact, they have a horrible, rainy, cloudy climate. It's awful. I mean, I lived there one year where it rained from, May and June for 6 weeks every day. And they have like enormous solar production going on. So no, that is not it. There's a relatively low level of renewable energy before this law was passed. So no, they didn't start with a huge base. They've made incremental progress every year for the last 13 and 14 years. So it's just steady growth. It's remarkable growth, even like 20% growth in the last year in solar. So the growth is continuing to expand. So they're just doing a good job. They put a good regulatory and financing system in place. It did require building and maintaining a political consensus and amending laws regularly. And I think that's a key lesson for the United States. So switching over to the United States, we've got a whole different scenario. We have no single funding stream. We don't have a feed-in tariff, except in a few little locations around the country. But there's multiple funding sources, and they vary by state and locality. The things that are common are the first two things at the top, but they have some problems too, we'll talk about. There's a 30% tax credit where the feds pay 30% of solar and I believe it's also wind energy and maybe some others, but I'm not sure the details. I'm going to talk mainly about solar here. There is accelerated depreciation if you're a business. If you're a homeowner or any other type of entity, you don't get the accelerated depreciation. There are state-controlled solar renewable energy credits, but it varies by state. And those function similar to feed-in tariffs, but they're not exactly the same. There are other state and local grants that used to be around, I'd say more 5 years ago, but with the economic crash, they've sort of diminished. And with the price of solar dropping, states and localities are feeling like it's less of a priority. And there are also, obviously, the payments from participants for the energy that they actually buy from the solar system. So those are the general components of what goes into a financing package. And let's get a little, I guess I converted and it got a little off kilter. But so a sample residential solar project in DC, say it's 4 kilowatts, might cost $12,000 now. If you can get a decent deal, maybe you do a bulk purchase with your neighbors or something like that. But you know, it's not unheard of to pay $12,000 for that in DC. The feds would pay $3,600 of that in the federal tax credit. If you qualify for the depreciation, meaning you're a business or it's a rental property that you own, you'd get $2,400 over 5 years in accelerated depreciation. And in DC, you'd get a whopping $9,000 worth of solar renewable energy credits paid basically almost quarterly over the course of 5 years. And they would extend beyond that. We're not sure how the market will look after 5 years. And then you'd have consumer energy payments. The value of that electricity would be about $3,000. So over 5 years, you have about $18,000 worth of revenues, potential revenues coming into a deal. So how do you finance things in the United States? There's self-financing, means that you have cash or you have good credit and access to low-cost credit. It works well enough for businesses. It works well for businesses because they take all the federal tax credits. It works well enough for homeowners. They lose the depreciation from the feds. It doesn't work for governments or nonprofits because they lose the federal tax benefits, which is at least 50% of the total project cost. So it makes it a deal breaker for nonprofits and government. But big investors are ready to step in when you need them. They're happy to invest their capital for a 15 to 24% annual return. Jump on board, sign up for a solar lease. So if you're creditworthy, you can sign up for a 20-year lease where you'll get, say, a 10% discount on your solar bill in DC. You may be able to find better deals elsewhere. And certainly in DC, the local installers are offering better lease deals too. So I don't want to say that leasing is absolutely evil. Who's left out? Low and moderate income households, other households with low credit scores, businesses with limited cash or access to credit, nonprofits, and public agencies. But here's what's coming down the pike. In 5 years, this is what the penetration of solar energy could look like. And this is just like the darker is the more penetration. If you are at grid parity, meaning that solar costs the same as unsubsidized as conventional energy on the grid. This is the states where conventional utility costs are basically higher than solar by 2018. In certain locations in the orange states, that's true, and then even fewer in the yellow states. In the gray, it's worse. But this is a train coming down the pike, and it cannot be stopped. So what does this mean for conventional energy providers? The power plants they built even recently may not be competitive much longer. Existing companies will fight for access and control of renewable energy production. Large-scale centralized renewable energy systems will be promoted as opposed to community solar or small-scale solar. So they'll want to set up, a gigawatt system in the desert and send the electricity to the cities rather than build rooftop solar. And we'll need extremely expensive infrastructure to support that. And then I think the alternative is clearly the decentralized renewable energy systems, shared systems, incremental reduction in energy use through improved building efficiency has to be top of our list. So make our buildings more and more efficient so we use less energy. And in the process, we're going to create an enormous number of local jobs. So we're keeping local dollars in the local economy and buying US-made products, even solar panels and inverters when we can. And I'm just going to have to fly through these because I know I'm about out of time. But you can do a range of things to help us get there, like forming a local advocacy group, educate yourselves about how to go to solar and do it, tell your friends about it. You can do bulk energy purchases with your neighbors or bulk solar purchases with your neighbors. Come in as a group and go to an installer. They don't have to spend the dollars marketing, so they're happy to give you a break on the price. There's some other more comprehensive things. You can advocate for state and local programs that would finance targeted types of solar. Or you could create a cooperative or community-owned business to finance and own renewable energy projects in your community. And that's a project that I'm working on in DC. So talk to me later if you'd like to hear more about that. And then there are some roles that public banks can play in this. So I just want to highlight those briefly, and then I'll stop. But I think the easiest thing for a public bank would be lending for building efficiency improvements. Just pretty plain vanilla things. Loans from 1 year to 20 years, depending on the type of investment, and they're pretty sure things, low risk. Lending to qualified businesses and homeowners who self-finance solar or wind projects. They could do riskier loans if a public agency would come in with some sort of an insured program behind that, leverage their capital 20-to-1. It's an easy way to spend public money. And then lending to other renewable projects that also use federal tax credits and involve tax credit investors. And then also just lending to small businesses in the renewable energy or energy efficiency sectors. So some resources that are available, Germany's energy transition, local decentralized renewable energy, and state and local advocacy for renewable energy. So if you wanted to start a renewable energy advocacy group in your community, that would be the place to go. And that's my information if you want to get in contact with me.